Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
Hello everyone, it is the Thursday, March 26, 2026 episode of the Marco Dre Show. Thank you for tuning in to hear today's groundbreaking news right here in America and across the board, where the facts are facts and hard truths thrive. Let's begin the best of radio, informative, uncensored, unapologetic, and ready to go, folks. We've got lots to go over today, lots to get into. Let's get right down to brass tacks. Let's talk about what's taking place out of the White House today. President Trump says now that he will unleash hell if Iran fails to understand that they have been defeated. This is a new one. I haven't heard this one before. Well, we've heard this one before quite a few times, haven't we? We're defeating them. The war's almost over, this and that. I don't understand this rhetoric. I got to be honest with you. I really don't understand this, why we take these positions and feel that somehow they're meaningful. This is at the same time Iran says they're not even talking to the United States. But I digress. Says they're speaking at a White House briefing. Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt said that the president remains willing to listen as talks with Iran continue. What talks? Who are we talking to? We can't even tell us who we're talking to now. But has stressed that the regime has now been given a final opportunity to accept the reality of its battlefield defeat and come to terms. Well, I don't think they're buying this. I got to be honest with you. I don't think the Iranians are buying this. They're continuing to strike inside of Israel. They're continuing to strike our military assets in the region. Things are not going well for we, the United States, folks. I'll just put it to you that way. She wanted to say, though, Iran should not miscalculate again, arguing that the regime's last miscalculation has already cost their senior leadership, their Navy, their Air Force, and their air defense systems. She said that a message from President Trump is very clear. If Tehran refuses to accept the reality, the consequences will intensify. Listen to that. Intensify. To what? What more are we going to do to them? Now, we've hit some over 9,000 targets right now to date since the start of this operation, while Iran's ballistic missile program, their drone attacks, have fallen by 90%. I've explained to you why this is taking place, though. It's not because we're destroying so much of their stockpiles or their launchers that they're firing 90% less. The reason why we're getting 90% less is because they don't have to fire as much. Why don't they have to fire as much? Because the air defense, like Patriot missiles, things of that nature, anything related to Iron Dome, is not functioning. Go look at the Israeli night sky. Those missiles are flying in. They're not being intercepted at all. And they're striking their targets, so they don't have to throw out as many. The original strategy was Iran fires several missiles, Iron Dome comes up, they intercept them, and maybe one or two gets through, maybe. But as time goes on, as the depletion of the defense missiles occurs, we don't have to fire as many now. That's what Iran knows. And we're even seeing now hypersonic missiles, like what took place in Dimona just a couple days ago, is taking place now. All this is happening. So there's no deterrence. We're not destroying anything. But yet somehow we're keeping up this facade that, oh, well, they're firing so much less, therefore, they're being depleted just a little bit longer and it'll all be over with. That's nonsense. It's nonsense. And again, you can look at the 8 to 9 swarms of strikes they commit every evening inside of Israel. Look at what's taking place. Look what Israel looks like. That's another thing. What are the Israelis going to do? That's the big question. Now they go on to add that they've destroyed more than 140 different Iranian naval vessels, including some 50 mine layers, calling it the largest elimination of a navy over a 3-week period since World War II. Okay. Well, again, are we fighting them at sea? The answer to that is no, we're not. Now, this campaign has expanded to include precision strikes on underground facilities and coastal missile systems, further crippling Iran's ability to conduct any type of offensive military operation and threaten the regional shipping. Again, I'll ask you the question. what ships are allowed to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. They're not U.S. ships. They're not European ships. They're not friendly to Israel ships. They're friendly to Iran in their demands, saying that any ship that crosses through the Strait of Hormuz will only do so if they pay in the Chinese yuan, abandoning the U.S. dollar. That's another big blow to the U.S. economy with all this. But Karoline Leavitt goes on. What else does she say? 25 days in, the greatest military the world has ever known is ahead of schedule and performing exponentially. Okay, well, again, what evidence do we have of this? Does that mean they're calling and asking for a ceasefire? No, they're not. The opposite is true. We're calling them for these ceasefires. And President Trump is giving these, 5-day ultimatums as a result of trying to boost up the military. That's what this is all about. That's what this is all about. So I don't know what productive conversations, as this article goes on to talk about, are in effect right now. I really don't see anything like that. No one from the Iranian side has come out and said, hey, we're in talks right now. We're talking about a peaceful solution to end this conflict. None of that. The war goes on, folks. And again, it's only going to get worse as time goes on. Let me ask you this, though. If I was sitting in the press corps, I'd ask Karoline Leavitt very bluntly, you say the war's coming to an end, they're defeated militarily. Why have they not reached out to the United States then? Why are they still firing inside of Israel? And of course, in our Gulf Arab neighbor states. How come we're talking about spending another $200 billion just for this war alone? On top of the already $1 trillion in effect that we're already spending on national defense. Why are we doing this? Why are we sending 5,000 Marines to the region? What would be the purpose of that? If we've defeated them militarily, they have no Navy, Air Force, air defense, their senior military leadership is now defeated. They should be hanging on by a thread, according to you. Why are we sending Marines to the region right now? Are we really going to take Iran with 5,000 Marines? And what would be the purpose of even taking an island like Kark Island, by the way? What would that prove? What would that do for us? What ploy in this game we're in now with Iran would that serve? None. Absolutely none. So I don't buy any of this. I think the Iranians clearly have rejected any 15-point plan that is being asserted. I don't believe they are going to accept any of that. I think they will make terms, and the United States will say either yes or no to them, and it'll proceed from there. I don't see this as being the Iranians are going to back down from this. They've already been attacked by the United States twice, and Israel, and they are not going to kowtow. That's just the way I see it, folks. I don't see it any other way. That we're winning or this strategy we're implementing is working. None of it's working. And again, I see nothing on the Iranian side that is talking about that, yes, we are in these communication with the United States. I just don't see anything that's shifting us into any sort of peace proposal or end of this conflict anytime soon. Every action we are taking is escalating the situation, not diminishing it. And we could sit here and talk about, well, we destroyed 9,000 targets. We've killed the senior military brass. We could talk about destroying their Navy. They're still controlling that strait. They're still shutting it down to anyone that's friendly with the United States. And they are still striking several targets in the region. It's gotten so bad now that they want the Saudis and the UAE to enter this war with us. Because they're the only two countries that have even given any sort of consideration to doing so. Europe has totally backed out and rebuffed President Trump. Israel's troops are now fighting in southern Lebanon. That's another disaster. 1,000 people have been killed. You have over 1 million people now that have been displaced from their homes, and they're told to leave because Israel will now annex southern Lebanon. Isn't that nice? Isn't that great, folks? It's amazing to me how people cannot see the bigger picture with all this. They're supposed to be in a ceasefire with Lebanon right now. Is that considered a ceasefire, ladies and gentlemen? Firing into Beirut, the suburban communities around it? Killing 1,000 people? Advancing north to take the land and saying, we're going to annex this. This is going to be our land soon. How do we allow this to happen? I don't understand this position, especially when the leader of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, sits on what is called the Board of Peace. Where is the peace, ladies and gentlemen? It's nowhere to be found. Nobody's even talking about peace on any of the mainstream media sites I've been on. This is going to go on for quite some time, folks, until I guess we can no longer fight. I don't see any other way around this. Again, I don't know why we would be asking South Korea, why would we be asking Japan back for missiles to be used in this conflict. Because, again, we don't have unlimited supply. We don't have the ability to just replenish them that quickly. Although we need to very soon because we've wasted a lot in this war. And, of course, we've given a lot to Israel and Ukraine as well. But this is going to go on for quite some time. And President Trump, as we know, will not come out and say he's been defeated. We know that. But he will try to find some sort of way to absolve himself from looking like he's been defeated. I'll just put it to you that way. And again, I don't buy these conversations at all. This is going to come from Iran. It's not going to come from the United States. Because, again, as I told you, they are the winning factor in this war. That's just the truth of the matter. They are the ones who are winning. They are the ones hitting these targets. They are the ones causing over $100 billion in damages to our military bases all throughout the Middle East right now. And if we had some real reporting, we could see exactly what's taking place inside of Israel, which, again, the footage I've seen is not good at all. And then we have to talk about the economic ramifications for this war. Trump understands this because, again, he knows how the economy works. He understands that this strait being shut down is having a stranglehold on the oil economy throughout the globe. Well, this is out of CNBC, though. It says, Israel says that now it has killed Iran's naval chief overseeing the Strait of Hormuz blockade. So then we would understand that the strait should be open now, right? We've killed the top brass that's controlling this. Naval Commander Ali Reza Tanjiri has been killed in a precision strike in the port city of Bandar Abbas, accusing him of being responsible for efforts to close the strategically vital Strait of Hormuz. Well, ladies and gentlemen, what did I say to you that the Iranians would do before this war even took place? My wonderful listeners, what did I tell you every single day we talked about this? I said the Iranians will strike these targets, they will retaliate, and they will shut down the Strait of Hormuz, and that's going to be devastating to our global economy. And what have they done? They've shut down the Strait of Hormuz. So, really, folks, if we're talking about being good to our word, the Iranians have been doing this right now. Now, the IDF said in a social media post that Tanjiri oversaw maritime terrorism carried out against countries in the Middle East, as well as against the United States and other nations' energy infrastructure. So this is what they're trying to paint him as now. Because he's overseeing that, this is maritime terrorism. No, it's not terrorism when you bomb a country amid talks, is it, folks? That's totally fine. When you use proxies in the region to kill other people, that's totally fine as well, apparently. Only when it's on our side. And again, I say this to you to be honest about the situation. We have proxies, the Iranians have proxies. Troops in the region get killed. That's the result of us being in this region. And I told you on yesterday's show, I think that this region is going to be vastly different after the end of this war. I really do. So they paint this guy as a maritime terrorist. Again, I don't know what closing a strait has to do with terrorism, although it is destroying the global economy. But that's because of what we did. It's not like the Iranians just shut down the Strait of Hormuz and said, listen, anyone that tries to pass through, we're stealing your oil, we'll kill you, and we will take everything from you. Nobody passed through unless we tell you to, right? They're not pirates, they're not Somali pirates, right? Off the Horn of Africa. I mean, they said, okay, listen, you attack us, we'll attack your allies in the region, these Gulf Arab family states. We will shut down the strait, we will destroy their economies, we will destroy the economies of Europe and Asia if you attack us. And we called their bluff, and they were good to it. We were not anticipating that. I will give President Trump that. He wasn't anticipating this. But this is the end result of what is taking place now. U.S. Central Command later confirmed Tanjiri's death on X. Yep, Iran has not yet commented on the report. Now, the shipping traffic through the Strait of Hormuz right now is virtually come down to a halt, ladies and gentlemen, since the U.S. and Israel launched this conflict on February 28th. But here's the bigger picture from this. It's not come to a halt. Iran is letting ships come through this region that are paying in the Chinese yuan. The oil they're shipping out, they're able to do that. We've dropped sanctions on them. We've dropped oil sanctions on Russia right now to get the flow of oil moving at a much more rapid pace. Because, again, Trump understands this is very bad for him in the midterm election, which, again, this doesn't make any sense why he would do this. This is not Venezuela. This is Iran. It's a much different country. They told us exactly what was going to take place, and it's taking place right now, folks. So, no, the Strait is not closed. The Strait is just closed for us. The Strait is very well working for China right now. But that's the big takeaway from this. Anyone who's paying in the Chinese yuan, anyone who's a part of BRICS is able to get through that strait unscathed. Everybody else, stay still. Now, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that the country's force continued to strike at the targets of Iran's regime. He went on to say last night, we eliminated the commander of the Revolutionary Guard's Navy. This man has a lot of blood on his hands. And Netanyahu doesn't, folks. How many people has he killed in Gaza so far? Over 80,000 at least. I think it's been over 700 since the start of the so-called ceasefire last October. Yeah. How many people has he killed in Lebanon? Over 1,000 right now? And he's talking about other people having blood on their hands? Is this guy kidding me? Yep, they're not happy about this closing of the Strait of Hormuz, folks. Let me ask you this. Why is Netanyahu not supplying troops to the region to help the United States? Why is the United States asking the Saudis now and the UAE to now assist us with support in the region? Why are we asking the Europeans now to come in and help open up the Strait of Hormuz, which they have no business opening or closing? They're not involved in this. So Israel won this war. Why is Israel not providing their own troops? Well, because they're trying to take over southern Lebanon. Again, it's all part of the plan for them. We attack Iran for them right now. They go into southern Lebanon. Everyone's got their eye on Iran. They continue these attacks in Gaza and Lebanon, north and south. Everybody looks the other way at this war because that's what's really affecting the economy. And they take a little bit of land here. They kill a couple more people here. It doesn't matter. By the way, I saw a tent city struck with an Israeli missile yesterday, and obviously it was very devastating. They're supposed to be in a ceasefire, aren't they, folks? Yeah, that's what I thought. Does anybody trust Netanyahu or Trump anymore? I really have to be honest with you. I don't think anybody will. I don't think unless it is in writing from the United States Senate and ratified by the president, I don't think anyone will buy anything that they say. And again, the words that we're using, that they've defeated them militarily, yet somehow they're still able to strike these sites. They're not backing down from that. Their government has not fallen, again, because I told you they function as a democracy. Whether you like that or not, whether you hate the theological component of their government, is beside the point. The main gist from this is that, yes, they still form a democracy, and yes, they still have people that will come up and they will be replaced. So you can kill, for example, Israel just previously killed their intelligence minister, Ismail Khatib. They also killed Ali Larijani. They also killed the commander of the Basil forces, Soleimani, yet somehow the government is still intact, folks. Everything is still working as is. They're not stepping down. They're not backing down. Just like if someone were to take out factions of the United States government, we would still function because we have people that are ready, that are capable to take over those positions and lead. That's how it works. It's not just one man, folks, as we've been hearing about for quite some time now. Again, it didn't work out. The government works as is. So think about this. The Ayatollah was assassinated, essentially. Yet the government didn't fall apart. We don't know where the current Ayatollah is. We haven't really heard from him. But we are seeing that the Iranian government is still well attacked here. And they are continuing to fight because they know that it's over if they are to give up. That's the bottom line with all this. They know if they surrender, if they give up, it's over for them. It's over for their government. It's over for them as a people, by the way. And I just don't think you can get rid of a civilization that's been around for what, over 3,000 years now? I just don't see that happening. I really don't. You know, we look at the stock market right now, too, just since we're on the topic of what's going on. Oil prices are up 3% today, and the S&P 500 has been dropping today. Oil's up 5.46%, bringing it to about $108 per barrel. So there we are with what's going on here now. So we're seeing the supply and demand of this really start to take effect. We're hearing certain things from President Trump. We're holding off on bombing. We're holding off on this ultimatum I'm giving you. We're holding off on destroying your energy infrastructure. We're holding off on this. Yet we're still sending troops to the region. So people have to ask themselves, what's the purpose for this? What happens when this ultimatum this weekend, which again, I think we're going to start attacking their energy infrastructure once the markets close on Friday. That's my take on this. Early Saturday morning, I do believe you're going to see a lot of these strikes beginning to take place inside of Iran. And that means it's going to get bad for the Gulf Arab states in the region. Those sites by them will be hit as well. And I haven't heard any updates on what's taking place inside a lot of these Gulf Arab states that rely heavily on desalination, whose facilities have been struck. We don't know anything about the food that's supposed to go into places like Qatar and what have you. What is going to happen to these people in the UAE that rely heavily on these imports and these other countries in the region? What are they going to do? What is Saudi Arabia going to do when they start shutting down the Red Sea, when the Houthis enter this conflict, which I estimate they will probably very soon? And by the way, what's going to happen when Iraq enters this war, folks? Have you heard about that? Oh, yeah. Lots of trouble. This came out just 2 days ago. Airstrikes targeting a site belonging to the Iraq Shi'ite Popular Mobilization Forces in the western province of Anbar killed at least 15 fighters, including the PMF's Anbar operations commander, and wounded 30 others, is what the Security and Health Resources told Reuters on Tuesday. Yeah, did you hear about this? Obviously, we have ground troops inside Iraq, folks. They're not very happy with the United States that this took place. We're seeing the IRGC now reaching high levels of recruitment to join this war. Are the Iraqis really going to enter this conflict and join with the Houthi rebels in Iran in this conflict? Now, only time will tell, ladies and gentlemen, but this is coming to a head right now. This is really coming to a head. We kill all these people. By the way, the PMFs, they are a part of the Iraq military. That's who they are. And the U.S. killed several of these PMF soldiers as we left the country. And their current military, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, I have a little bit of a cold today. Their military sits around 120,000 right now. Easily, they're getting recruitment so quickly that people are estimating they can get 50,000 without any type of trouble. That's what I've been told. Now, whether or not they join this war, I don't know. But what would happen if we stopped using the Iraqi Air Force? Excuse me, the airspace, rather. What would happen if the Saudis did the same thing to us? What would we be able to do in this region then? Our military bases all throughout the region are destroyed or inoperable. What would we do next? If these countries say, listen, you're off limits for using our airspace. You can't use our country. And now you enter with 2 other countries in the region? I don't think that's going to be beneficial to the United States, folks, or ending this conflict. What we see right now, the power structure change inside of Iraq, obviously, if they prevent us from using their airspace, is detrimental to the United States. That would be a great hindrance on what we would be doing right now. And again, a lot of these Iraqis are anti-war right now, and especially after what they just saw, the killing of at least 15 in the PMF is now going to upset them even more. After the killing of the Ayatollah, you already saw this. Lots of people said, we want to join this war. We want to get involved now. You're seeing this inside of Iran as well. People that are very miffed that the Ayatollah was simply killed, along with the 165 school-age girls, 20 on this women's volleyball team murdered. You have many other civilians that have been killed in these strikes that we've been doing because we've resorted to striking civilian sites, as has Israel. Now we're talking about destroying their energy infrastructure. putting them essentially in the dark. What do you think is going to happen as a result of this? They're not just going to roll over and play like this. They're going to stand up and fight. That's what it comes down to. So we've got to understand something. This is a Shi'ite paramilitary faction that was formally integrated into Iraq's state security forces and includes several groups aligned with Iran. We have to understand this. Now, Tehran-backed armed groups have launched several attacks on U.S. bases inside of Iraq since the outbreak of this war, and the conflict has now spilled over beyond Iran's borders now. We have Tehran now launching strikes on Israel, the Gulf Arab states, inside of Iraq, for example. But if Iraq says we've had enough of this, as you were leaving, you killed several of our own military installations and service members, if you will. We're now going to get involved in this war against you. What if that were to happen? What if that were to happen? You would see this war, again, continue to escalate beyond measures I can't even comprehend, but that's where we are right now, ladies and gentlemen. That's the truth of the matter. We are making more enemies than we are allies in the region now. And as a result of what we're doing, what's taking place, a lot of people are going to be very turned off by the United States after the end of this war, whenever that should end. Doesn't even matter when it ends. They're going to be upset about this. And when you see what, again, Israel's doing inside Lebanon, when you see what's taking place inside Syria, for example, again, I don't think it's going to be very long before you see the Houthis enter this conflict as well. So what if we have the Houthis in Yemen controlling the Red Sea, you have the Iranians controlling the Persian Gulf, and you have Iraq shutting off their airspace to the United States, and they get involved in this conflict, and they, again, offer more troops to continue to fight against Israel and the United States. What would be the end result of all that? Nothing positive. And by the way, you also have Turkey somewhere in the wings here, too. We don't know how they would respond to this war, if they would be involved in the war. But I can't see them getting on the side of Israel, who also wants to take part of Turkey in their attempt to get Greater Israel. Just my take on this. And by the way, we haven't even talked about the issue of possibly China or Russia getting involved should things get even worse for the Iranians. We're already seeing, for example, this is out of the Financial Times, that Russia is close to completing a phase shipment now of drones, medicine, and food inside of Iran, according to Western intelligence reports that detail Moscow's efforts to keep its embattled fighting partner. Yeah, we know that the Russians are involved in this. We know that they're supplying them with surveillance, satellite footage of what's going on in the region. They're working with them as a partner because they are a strategic partner inside of the Middle East. Putin knows this. Xi knows this. They're all on the same page. I think you'll see Modi understand this soon enough. Pakistan wants this war ended too, by the way. Would they get involved in this war? After all, part of Pakistan now is a part of Greater Israel too. This is outrageous. You have to ask yourself, are these countries just going to sit there and say, oh, well, Iran fell, so what? Lebanon fell, so what? Syria, well, they're going to fall soon enough. Hey, they just took part of Turkey. Let us just continue to sit here and do nothing. These countries are going to say, no, we're not going to allow this. That's why you see Iran and their proxies in the region act the way they do. Because of the conflict coming out of Israel. That's what it comes down to. I know you don't like to hear me say that, but that's the truth of the matter. But right now we've got senior Iranian and Russian officials now began secretly discussing delivering more drones days after Israel and the United States attacked Tehran. So this has been set in motion for quite some time now. Two officials briefed on the intelligence have stated this too, by the way, so this is not just something made up hearsay. The processing and delivery has begun in early March, and it was expected now to be completed by the end of the month. So that's basically right now. So we got to understand, the Russian ties are very close with Tehran. They have been provided as an ally with, again, crucial support with satellite imagery, targeting data, intelligence support. People familiar with the matter have said. Now, the shipment of weaponry such as drones will be the first evidence Moscow has been willing to provide lethal support to Iran since the start of the war. But again, I ask you this. Would Russia really be willing to let Iran fall into the hands of such as a Pahlavi right now? Would they really go to that extent to allow that to happen? To let one of their BRICS membership partners, their member state just simply be done with and go away? There's not a chance in hell Russia would allow this to happen. Now, again, Russia's fighting their own front right now inside of Ukraine. They're accelerating their attacks right now, as you would have heard if you listened to yesterday's show. But I don't think Putin is going to be that much in limbo to just say, let the Iranians fall, it doesn't matter. Again, I say the same thing about Xi. I don't think Xi would let the same thing happen either. I think both will provide them with what they need to continue to, again, prevent this takeover of their country. All Iran has to do is not lose, ladies and gentlemen. They don't have to defeat anybody. They just simply do not have to fall. We, on the other hand, have to have regime change to get what we want. Because regime change, putting in a puppet, would eliminate their nuclear capacity. Any sort of ballistic missile program, they can totally do away with all that. All of this. All of this. And again, you get more oil out of the region. We heard about this. Remember I read to you about the Wall Street Journal editorial report? They came out with someone who was a part of this energy dominance coalition inside the United States saying, hey, there's a lot of oil that could be had there. Millions of barrels per day produced and shipped. Yeah, well, I think that's on our radar as well. I just don't think we're going to get it. That's just my take on it. So remember, the Russians are in the background. The Chinese are in the background. We see Moscow has highlighted provisions for humanitarian aid since the conflict began. I don't think they're going to let Iran fall. I just simply don't believe that. Now, Iran has made firing one-way attack drones across the Middle East a core element of its military strategy. It's also fired more than 3,000 such drones, which is able to be produced cheaply since the outbreak of this fighting. We're seeing drones worth a couple thousands of dollars take out a $500 million radar in the region that the United States owns. I mean, it's that ridiculous. But that's the truth of the matter. So we're taking lots of hits. We're taking lots of economic hits as well, just by what we've built in the region and what's taking place as far as the oil benchmarks, for example. Other things such as, for example, the fertilizer, which is a big problem coming out of the region. By the way, I saw this in the Hill when I was looking at that this morning. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins said that the rising fertilizer prices, get this, shouldn't be too disruptive for U.S. farmers. I had to read it again twice because I didn't believe that she was actually saying that. But she did. We got to understand something. 20% of farmers are going to be impacted by what's taking place in the Middle East. 20% of our crop farmers. You have urea, ammonium nitrite in the region, up 15% since the end of last month. So not only is the supply screwed with, now we've got the price of it now also accelerating now. And yes, Canada is one of our biggest importers of fertilizer in the region. I understand that. But when we cut off the supply, the world supply gets cut off. Those prices, those stocks, those futures, the cost in general goes up. And everything is indicating it's going to cost farmers more now to produce the same amount of crops, if they're even able to do so. She came up with some scenario where she said that, 80% of the farmers right now have enough fertilizer they purchased previously for this year's crop yield. Okay, fine. What about after that? What about after this, Miss Rollins? What's going to take place then? Oh, we're going to try to use Venezuela now to get some... Oh, yeah, let's rob Venezuela more now. Extract it from Venezuela, then ship it to the United States. What, is Venezuela just going to be our... I don't even know what it would be. Just we're going to rob and pillage Venezuela now? We've already taken their oil. We've taken $100 million worth of gold deposits. Now we're going to take their urea out of the country? Oh, my goodness. It's amazing, folks. It's amazing we're in the situation we're in right now. But that's the reality of the situation. By the way, Putin is thrilled. I got to tell you, folks, thrilled about these gas prices. This is out of the Telegraph. It says Putin is now making $760 million a day from oil as war inside of Iran delivers windfall. He's loving this. I got to be honest with you. He is loving this right now. That the United States is this foolish to embark on such a stupid endeavor to try to simply take down the Iranian government in one day. One day. Didn't happen. But, the demand for Russian oil is rising. The United States has removed sanctions off of Russian oil, just like we did with the Iranian oil. That's already at sea. But now look at this. The Kremlin sales from oil and gas will now double from about $12 billion to nearly $24 billion this month, as Putin profits from an enormous price surge and Donald Trump's sanctions waivers. This is so ridiculous. We're enriching the Russians. We're enriching the Iranians. It's so funny. Scott Best came out and said, well, they're buying oil for now. It's much more expensive. The Chinese are buying it from the Iranians. Yeah, so they're buying the same amount of oil, same amount of barrels, and now it costs 100 and God knows how much out of that region per barrel. And before it was roughly $68 on average. I mean, it's so stupid. These schmucks don't know what the hell they're talking about. It's amazing to me. By the way, the national gas average in the United States is now $3.98 across the board. $1 more than it was exactly a month ago, ladies and gentlemen. So this is getting people very upset, as you could imagine. They're not very happy about all this. And it's shocking that we try to deflect so often as to what's taking place actually inside this country. It's amazing to me that we do these things. Short-term gain for short-term pain. I always mess this up because I'm not a talking head. Short-term pain for long-term gain right now. So you're paying $1 more for the same amount of gas to get to work, to provide for your family or yourself. And you're supposed to be okay with this. Oh, so what? I spent $120 to fill up my gas tank the other day. So it usually costs me, $40 less. I mean, this is stupid. This is ridiculous. How much longer is this going to go on for? People are not going to forget this. And again, it's going to be blamed on the Republicans because they've allowed this to happen. They've allowed the president to go on and use this War Powers Act, which again, this doesn't apply to because we were never in any imminent threat from Iran at all. But this is where we are right now, folks. This is where we are. Oh, by the way, just so we're talking about what's taking place inside of the Gaza Strip right now, it says here that the Hamas has now tightened grips inside of Gaza. New analysts have now shown. Yep, folks, so it's amazing to me. The Israelis cannot defeat Gaza, let alone 85% of the country lie in complete ruins. I mean, it's just totally decimated. Hamas lives, underground in these tunnels? They can't even go in and find them? Yet somehow the Israelis and the United States are going to destroy the Iranians, when the United States couldn't even defeat the Houthi rebels inside of Yemen. I want you to think about that for a second. We spent over, I think $1 billion a day striking them. Forgotten for a couple months it was. Couldn't defeat the Houthi rebels inside of Yemen, but somehow we're going to bomb Iran into submission because we've already defeated them militarily. And I know what we were told, we got the ceasefire now with the Houthis because we defeated them. Okay. The truth of the matter is we didn't defeat them. They're still very much in progress with what they're doing right now. And I told you before, I think they're going to enter this war very soon, especially with what we're seeing right now inside of Gaza and, of course, what's taking place in Lebanon. Now, it says here, as the international community struggles to advance the second phase of an already fragile ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, I have to laugh at this. I mean, this is comedy. Whoever wrote this should be a comedian. The IDF is continuing to bomb inside of Gaza, killing people. Again, I just saw yesterday, they fired 2 missiles into a tent city, for God's sakes. I didn't get the figures on if anyone died, but I saw people maimed, of course, as you could imagine. They're supposed to be in a ceasefire with the Gazans right now, aren't they? They're supposed to be in a ceasefire with the Lebanese right now. Yet, 1,000 people have died inside of Lebanon. We know that since this ceasefire took place, well over 700 people have been killed. And yet the Western press is completely silent about this. All sides of it, completely silent about this. They're supposed to be in a ceasefire. The IDF isn't supposed to be operating inside of Gaza. It violates UN Charter, Article 242, I believe. Yet somehow they're maintaining this dominance over the Gazans, which they're not even supposed to be in this region, and they're killing innocent people. They're not killing Hamas. We know well over 80% of the people killed so far have been innocent men, women, and children. They're not Hamas. But here we go. Let's continue the article. It says the Palestinian terror group, there we go, is exploiting the war in Iran to tighten its civilian and security grip on the Gaza Strip and rebuild its military capability. Yep. Well, again, what do you think they're going to do? Just hand over their weapons and let you kill all of them? Of course, again, they're supposed to be in a ceasefire, and yet the Israelis have never honored the ceasefire at any point. At any point did the Israelis honor this ceasefire. It just didn't happen. Just like they never honored a ceasefire with any country they were supposed to be in a ceasefire with. And again, I just will point you to Lebanon right now. They're supposed to be in a ceasefire with Lebanon right now. There is no ceasefire. They want to advance to the Litani River. They want to annex that land. And they've been very open about saying they're going to annex this land. And the world sits there and we just simply watch this. And Netanyahu's on a board of peace? Peace for who? Peace for himself? Again, I don't even know what Israel's going to look like after this war. But we're seeing Tel Aviv, we're seeing Haifa get very much destroyed as a result of this. I don't know who would want to live in Israel after this. I really don't. But here we go. We have a newly released report now saying this week that warned that the U.S.-Israel conflict with Iran and disputes over management of Gaza are delaying the implementation of the second phase of the U.S.-backed ceasefire agreement. There was never a ceasefire to begin with. What do you mean second phase of it? They never honored it from day one. They didn't release all the Israeli prisoners, many of whom were held without any charge. So Trump plays one side against the other. He doesn't hold Netanyahu accountable to anything because he lets Netanyahu do whatever he wants. I think that's as clear as mud. If Trump was serious about peace in this region, why would he allow Netanyahu to continue to bomb this region when they're supposed to be in a ceasefire? Why would he allow them to not allow humanitarian aid in the region? It makes absolutely no sense when you look at this, folks. Goes on to say the report also warned that such delays are giving Hamas a window of opportunity to rearm and further tighten its control over Gaza, which again they've never been relinquished of. The IDF still has not defeated Hamas. That's the truth of the matter. So we could talk about this. So you're telling me that the IDF can bomb 85% of the Gaza Strip into ruins. It could kill tens of thousands at the bare minimum. I think that number is extremely low because we haven't even seen who is under all this massive amounts of rubble in the region. We know that they were not allowing humanitarian aid. We know people have been starving in the region. Yet somehow Hamas is still there. You can't defeat Hamas yet. What makes you think you can just simply bomb Iran into submission? You cannot do it, folks. You can't do it. Again, the IDF doesn't want to try to take the ground either because it's going to be like guerrilla warfare in the region. I don't know that Hezbollah to the north will just simply roll over as well. I don't see that happening. I really don't. But the report notes also in this that Hamas's confidence is on the rise inside of Gaza. Why wouldn't it be? You're not defeating them. You're bombing and killing a lot of people, absolutely. But you're not defeating Hamas. You're simply not doing that. And again, I don't think the Houthi rebels will also allow that to be taken over as well. I just simply don't buy any of it that that's going to be happening. All right, folks, let's move on. We got to talk about Trump's popularity next. I think that's something we need to really hone in on is the 2026 election cycle is continuing to drag on. We got to listen to Karoline Leavitt first, though. She was asked about what is Trump doing for younger voters? These younger voters, this younger coalition that came out, they might be independents, they might be Democrats. We don't even know. They might be first-time Republican voters in this Gen Z group. They came out and voted for President Trump. He was anti-war. He was about fixing things for younger Americans. What is President Trump doing for the young Americans now? is what Karoline Leavitt asked, and she responded with this.
President Trump is doing this for you. He's doing this for young people so that we are no longer threatened by a rogue terrorist regime in the Middle East that seeks to kill the brave men and women who serve in our country in the Middle East, many of them young people themselves, young men and women who serve this country honorably in uniform and have been threatened, killed, and maimed by the rogue Iranian terrorist regime for 47 years. President Trump finally had the courage to step up and do what's right by our national security, our homeland security. As for the temporary short-term fluctuation in gas prices, the president has said once these combat operations are over, this administration is going to continue to unleash American energy dominance. We're continuing to do that every day, and we're going to see prices at the pump go back down, just as we have over the past year because of this president. And don't think for 1 second if the Democrats had their way, gas prices would be as they were under the previous administration, the Biden administration, record highs. This president is keeping them as low as he can during this short-term combat operation, and they're going to go right back down when this is over.
Did anyone else understand what she was saying there? You know, she reads the nonsense very well, but it's all nonsense at the very end of it. What is she telling us right now? Why should younger people vote for president? Because he's keeping us safe? How's he keeping us safe by sending our military on the ground, like, for example, on Kark Island, or putting them at sea where they can be hit with, well, apparently they have ICBMs now, which, again, I don't believe they have. It's very interesting to me. She said a whole lot of stuff, but she said a whole lot of nothing. So in other words, she's telling us everything, but she's showing us nothing right now. What is President Trump doing for younger Americans right now? By having the economy, again, inflation, rising. We'll talk about the inflation again tomorrow when we go over our weekly economic reports and the articles associated with that. But it's not looking good right now, folks. She talks about keeping us safe from the Iranians. We've been at war with them for 47 years. They've killed Americans. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, let me be very clear with you. The Iranian government has not killed a single American citizen on American soil, or abroad, by the way, since 1979. Let's just be very clear with this. The people that had been killed had been American troops in the region, largely through Iranians, proxies from the region, particularly Hezbollah. They get some other groups they try to associate with the Iranians, even though they're not necessarily associated with them. But the number overall, if you were to add up all the proxies, if you were to add up all these, that number is about 901 American troops that have been killed. Again, horrific. I don't want that to happen. You don't want that to happen. We love our military, absolutely. But you have to understand something. They are at war. That's why they were in these conflicts. Now, one of the big numbers in there of this 901 was the 241 Marines that were killed in the Beirut barracks bombing, the Marines that were in that region. They try to assess that was Hezbollah, and that was funded by the Iranians that killed them in the early 1980s. But that's not entirely true, folks. The group that did it was actually called the Amal Group. They had no ties to Iran at all. Now, some of those leaders became Hezbollah. And of course, we know Hezbollah is funded by the Iranians. But they weren't responsible for that bombing, even though that's the number one group that they say is associated with them, and of course Iran. That was a different group. By the way, that group is still around today inside Lebanon too. They're not funded by the Iranians. And by the way, the reason that bombing took place was because we, the United States, decided to lob a missile into Lebanon just prior to that happening. Ronald Reagan knew right away that it was not a good idea to be in that region. And of course, what did he do? He took us out of there. Caspar Weinberger said, why are we in this region? They don't want us here. We shouldn't even be here. George Shultz implored him he should do this. So Reagan did. And Reagan realized that was a very big mistake to do that. Maybe we need to take a little spot out of the Reagan playbook and say, listen, we shouldn't be in this region. We shouldn't be going in there. If they don't want us there, let's get out of the region. That seems to be the best approach I can think of right now. But further to what she's saying, okay, she's talking about proxies killing American troops. All right, that did happen. Yes, in some cases that did happen. That is true. Iranian proxies have killed American troops in that region since 1979. As I said to you before, that number is probably a couple hundred of them at best. How many Iranians have been killed by American proxies in the region, though? Let's ask that question right now. Either the American government directly or through a proxy. How many has that been? Who do we fund through the Iraq-Iran war, ladies and gentlemen? That would be, we funded Iraq. We gave Saddam Hussein the weapons, the money he needed. We gave him chemical weapons to use. And we killed at least 300,000. Yes, 300,000 Iranian troops in that war. Some that were disabled by the chemical gas. Yep. 300,000. Some say it's up to 500,000. We'll go with the lower number, though. We'll just say it's 300,000. A war that we wanted, that we funded, we started. We let Iraq, obviously, go in and do that. Do you think the Iranians would be upset about this, folks? That people in their country were at war for the reason that the United States wanted Iraq to take them down? I think they'd be upset about that, wouldn't you? That'd be like a country, like let's say Russia gave Canada funding, weaponry, chemical weapons, this, that. If we went to war with them and they killed 300,000 Americans, how would we feel towards Russia? We'd be very upset with them. Of course we would. We just killed 165 young school children. All of them girls. Some of whom that have been incinerated. We did that. The United States Army did that. Has the Iranian military ever attacked inside the United States and killed American citizens? The answer to that is no. They have not. Again, I'm just telling you the truth, folks. Just telling you the truth. And we've got to be, again, cognizant of what's going on here. But Trump's approval ratings, they're not looking good. This is out of Just the News. It says Trump's disapproval rating reaches second-term high at 59%. Well, 58% oppose war with Iran is what a new Fox poll has now stated. So it's not looking good going into this midterm, folks. It's not looking good. I told you by March, April, he needs to have this economy turned around, at least improving in the right direction, if he wants the Republicans to stay in power. That's not happening. In fact, we're seeing that go the opposite direction. When you're paying $1 more for gas across the board inside the United States, when you're seeing it reach $8.50 in parts of downtown Los Angeles, people are going to wonder, is this economy working for me? Is this government working to bring down costs for the United States, for every single American? And the answer right now is no. They're telling you straight up. Short-term pain for long-term gain. Whose gain? Well, the oil industry loves this. They're getting to sell oil for record profits right now. Liquid natural gas companies, they love it. Higher profits because they have to relate to what the market's doing. So those people inside the United States are very happy about that. They're making a great gain on this. The military security industrial complex, they're making a hell of a lot of money. Then they got to replenish all these munitions and weaponry that we're using inside the Middle East. They get these big contracts worth billions of dollars. Shipping's really going to love this too, by the way. Again, it all makes people very wealthy more. Never forget that. But the average American is affected by this. It hurts them. It hurts their pocketbook. Said regarding how the military action is going in Iran, 47% of voters say the effort is going very well, while 52% disagree. Yeah, folks. Yeah, this is not good. And again, I told you things have got to turn around really by the beginning of March for this to take effect. And he's blown it. President Trump has blown it by doing this. Day one, his priority should have been taking control of the economy. We're already seeing this take place too, by the way. This is out of Politico. It says here, a Mar-a-Lago flip. Democrats win Trump's hometown Florida House district that has been Republican held in the Senate for quite some time. Look at this. Yep, Democrats sent a jolt Tuesday through reliably red Florida, flipping 2 legislative seats, including one district containing President Trump's Mar-a-Lago home. So the Democrat Emily George defeated Trump-endorsed GOP state House candidate in a hotly contested race that had seen Democrats pour money and support into an effort to take a hold of the Palm Beach County District. But Democrats also narrowly squeaked out a win in the Tampa State Senate seat as well, held by Lieutenant Governor Jay Collins until last August. So this is indicative about what's going on, and again, we can look at what's taking place inside New York City, Seattle, some of these mayoral races. Again, they're in blue cities and blue states. I understand that. But when we start seeing races in other states, like in Georgia and Florida, that are particularly red, and they're starting to shift and go blue, that's a cause for concern. That's foreshadowing I don't think we on the right want to see, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I'm just being honest with you. That's the way I see it. That's the way things are going right now. I want to go over another interesting article, folks. This is out of Reuters. I saw this on Brett Bayer's show last night. It says here now that jurors in the first two trials inside the United States are seeing a growing wave of lawsuits targeting social media firms over harm to children. And what they found was that Meta and Alphabet's Google are now liable, potentially teeing up an appeals fight that could reshape how the United States law shields tech companies from these lawsuits. Of course, they're referring to Section 230. But this is interesting to me because they're trying to assert that it's these social media platforms or these tech platforms that are causing harm to young children. For example, in California, a Los Angeles jury on Wednesday found Meta and Google liable for a young woman's depression and suicidal thoughts after she said that she had become addicted to Instagram and YouTube at a very young age, ordering them to pay a combined $6 million in damages. Well, man, that might cure her depression, right? I don't understand, though, how you could go ahead and do this, though. You willingly use an app. You willingly turn on the computer, use Google, right? Use YouTube, for example. And you're watching content that you condone on your own, and yet you're depressed and now you're suicidal. Let me ask you this question, though. Can we really blame the owners of these companies? Now, we know that they set up algorithms, for example. They use certain algorithms to hone in on what these kids are watching. Again, I don't agree with any of that. I don't like any of that. But that's what it is. That's what it is. Parents know this. So if a young child is using YouTube, using Instagram, using Facebook, using Snapchat, or using whatever other stupid social media platform is out there, TikTok, you name it, can we really say that it's the company's fault that you willingly use? I mean, that would be like becoming a drunk and saying, geez, I can't believe, look how much weight I'm gaining by drinking all this Bud Light. So I got to sue Bud Light now. I didn't realize I was going to get this out of shape. I didn't realize I was going to have all these effects from drinking alcohol. I have high blood pressure now. My body mass index is rising. I feel sluggish, depressed. I don't move as well. You willingly bought the product. You willingly drank the Bud Light. So how can we sit here and say, it's got to be these companies' fault? Well, I'll be totally honest with you. Again, I understand the algorithm portion of it, but why give your child access to all this at a young age? You as a parent would allow them to sit in front of a screen for several hours a day. Take the phone away. Get them away from the computer. Get them outside. Get them sunlight. Get them exercising. And if you want to give them a little bit of time using the social media app or the YouTube or whatever it is to monitor what they're doing too, that'd be one thing. But when parents just totally let television or let social media or YouTube or Rumble just be the entirety of a young child's life, that's, again, bad for their development, both mentally and physically, because it's a very sedentary lifestyle. But to blame them for allowing them access, it's the parents' fault. The parents control what the child uses. The kid doesn't go buy the cell phone. The kid doesn't go buy the computer or pay for the internet service. It's the parents who are doing this. So it's the parents' fault. We see in a separate New Mexico case, jurors on Tuesday ordered Meta to pay $375 million after finding the company misled users about the safety of its products for young users and enabled the sexual exploitation of children on its platforms. Now, again, if they're doing something illegal, that's something totally different. So I don't know what this, it doesn't really go into detail about what they're referring to here. Could be, again, the algorithms are pushing kids to look at things they shouldn't be looking at. Again, where are the parents? Why are the parents letting their kids have access to everything? When you let your kid log on the internet, they are exposed to every single thing that can be on the internet, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think anybody is unaware of that. So again, I have to ask the question, will Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act of 1996 come in and protect these online platforms from liability over the user-generated content that's placed on all of them? Again, you go on YouTube, you upload your show. You go on Instagram, you follow accounts that you like their content. Can we really blame the account, Meta, for what other people are putting on these? Can we really blame Google for what people are putting on YouTube? I don't see that as, again, being something that is going to be happening, folks. I really don't. Oh, by the way, folks, before we end the show, I'm going to go over a little bit today because I want to get through this. We talk about parental rights, of course, and being involved in what your children do, and again, being accountable for this. So the ex-Illinois governor reveals stunning theory about illegal migrant accused of murdering Loyola freshman Sheridan Gorman. Ex-governor Rod I always say his name wrong. I got to say it slow. Blagojevich. There you go. I think that's how you say it. Forgive me if I said it wrong. Shared a stunning theory about the illegal alien now accused of executing a Chicago area college student in cold blood, asserting that it was gang initiation. Well, I tend to agree with him on this. It probably was, seeing as the person just simply tried to kill the young girl. Saying that Sheridan Gorman's killer is being held in isolation. I suspect J.B. Pritzker, the Democrats, are hiding him to cover up the fact that he's an illegal alien who killed an innocent young girl as part of a gang initiation. Yeah, so what happened here? How did this come to? How did this happen? It says there that she and her friends were near the campus. They were taking a walk to try to catch a glimpse of the Northern Lights when Medina, that's what his last name is, wearing black clothes and a black mask and wielding a gun, jumped out at them. According to the Chicago Tribune, when they fled, he allegedly fired a single shot that struck Gorman in her head, killing her right away. Disgusting and it's horrible. Now, how was Medina allegedly carrying a gun when he can't purchase one inside the United States? I'll let the Democrats try to figure that out, these schmucks. It says here, with his own mother later identifying him after investigators shared footage of the heinous shooting. In May of 2023, he was apprehended at the U.S. border and released by the Biden administration. So we have Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and Alejandro Mayorkas as, again, should be held accountable that this piece of human trash was able to get inside the United States. But again, he was sprung again free in June of 2023 to now go and shoplift and then be arrested in Chicago. So he's probably got a litany of arrests on him. He was currently being held in a hospital for tuberculosis and has to go viral in front of the judge now. Disgraceful, disgusting. I would not doubt that. I always say his name. I hate that I say his name wrong, so let me look at it again. Blagojevich. There we go. I think he's right about this. I think he's right because we see these types of things happen where these people go after one particular group of people they don't know. It's a random killing. And usually that's an initiation for a lot of these gangs inside, again, all of the major cities inside the United States. So I think he's probably absolutely right about this, that this is what's taking place right now. We saw this years ago in San Francisco with the killing of Kate Stanley. She was killed just randomly by somebody, a single shot killed, and the person that killed her was an illegal alien who got off scot-free too, by the way. It was absolutely disgusting. And I seem to think that this is the exact same case we're seeing here right now. This is somebody that went out to find somebody to kill. And he should be held absolutely 100% accountable to this. Whether that happens in Chicago, in Illinois, that's another story. But it's absolutely horrible to see these things. Folks, thanks again for being here. That'll do it for today's show. I'll catch you back here tomorrow for more groundbreaking news on the next Marco DeRay Show. Until then, be good, stay busy, God bless.